Hello guys, in this new video we will create a style for the header of the page we have already created, and we will create a navigation menu, a horizontal navigation menu. So to start, I've gone to Google Fonts at google.com/fonts, and I've selected two fonts that I like, these two, Oxygen and Source Sans Pro. I'm going to use that in my style. So I'll go here to use, to the use tab here in Google. I'll select all the styles. I'm not sure which I'm going to use, so I'll bring them all. I don't think that will cause any trouble. And I'll import them with this import, the second one, which is for CSS. So I'll go here to Komodo. Here is the page that I created in the previous video. It looks like this. And here's a code. So I need to create this page that I'm referencing here, this style sheet that I'm referencing here. So I will go to my file menu, new file from template. I'll select CSS and I'll give it the name that I have here, CSS. It's called index_may.css, and I'll put it in the folder I'm indicating here. It is styles/indexmay. So styles, there's my folder, and indexmay.css, there we are. I have my new file here. I'm gonna make it a lot bigger so you can actually see what I did better, because I realized that the previous video wasn't that good in that way. Here's my Google code from Google Fonts. I'll copy it here, remember import, and I'll paste it in the first line of my style sheet. I want to wrap. Remember to wrap the text. There you are. So it's wrapping and I can see it all in one screen, and I'm ready to start. So I'll start by resetting the margins as I did in a previous video, so I can control the margins in every element. Every element is selected with the asterisk key, the star key. So I'll define a margin of 0 and a padding of 0, which will allow me to set those actually the way I want them to be. So right now, if I save and reload, it's going to look a lot tighter. There we are. I lost every margin and every padding I have. So I'll start by giving a font family for everything in my page. The main font, so I'll define it for the body. The body is everything in the page. And I'm going to use the font family that I chose here from Google. It's called Source Sans Pro. So in parentheses, in quotation marks, sorry, I'll write Source Sans Pro. And it's a sans serif font. So it'll fall back to sans serif if the user cannot connect to the internet to download that font, or for some reason doesn't have it. And the size, the normal size for this font, will be 16 pixels. There we are. That's the body. So now remember that here in my HTML, this is my HTML for me, and I have created this div called header that contains the image, the text, and the links. So I will select that here in my style sheet, like header, and create some styles for that. So I'll start by adding a different font family for the head, because I want it to look different, and that's for the reason I've got this Oxygen font. It's a serif, so I want it to fall back to Times or to Times New Roman if the user can't use it. And finally, if it doesn't work, to fall back to a serif. So that's font family. And I want the header to be 100% of the width of the page, to go from the border left to the border in the right. So I'll give it a width of 100%. And the height, I want it to be automatic, because it's going to depend on the size of the texts that I've got here. So it'll be auto. And my header will have a border in the bottom, and only in the bottom. So I'll use border bottom and define a solid border that is thick. I want it to be about 4 pixels. Let's try that. And I want it to be black. Let's see what's happened. I'll reload here my preview. And so far so good. I have had this. The font is working there. It's Oxygen. But it doesn't look like a sans serif. Maybe something's wrong here. It's oxygen, yeah, that's fine. Font family, oxygen, Times New Roman. Yeah, it's fine. It's it should look that way. Let me check my finished product here just to make sure I'm not making a mistake. Yep. Okay, I'll trust myself, and I'll check when I have the other font. Because, yeah, look, this one looks different. And this one is, yeah, this one looks very different, this one down here. And the one in the rest of the body, because I haven't changed it, is Source Sans Pro. So, yep, that's oxygen. And it's not a serif, it's actually a sans serif too. So, I'll change this. I'll use Helvetica to fall back to. And if not, I'll use Arial to fall back to. And finally, I'll use a sans serif, whatever the user has. There we are. So, my border is there and we are all set. And that's for the header. Now I need to change to make sure that the image in my header is the logo. This 528 Carpinteria will be the right size. So I select header to make sure I'm in that div, and inside that div IMG. That is, I am selecting this tag here. Every image tag, this, that is inside a header div, a div called header. So for the image, I'm going to define a width that is 150 pixels and a height that is 75 pixels. And that's all I want. Now I want to change the way this text is displayed. I want to place it in the right side and at the same level of the logo. So to select that, let's look where it is. It's here and it's an H2. So I'll define a style for H2 inside header. That's header H2 is my selector. And I will give it a bigger font size. So I'll use the M as a unit, 1.3 M, and that's a little bigger than I have here. Oh, a little smaller than I have here. Yep. Oh, that looks nice. And I'll make it italic, so I'll change the font style. I want it to look italic. There we are. And I want it to be bold. So I'll give it a very large font weight. I'll give it the largest font weight I can give it here, 700, because that's the maximum I imported here with my font family, 700. So I make it 700, that's a lot thicker. And I also wanted, and this is very important, to display inline. Display is a very important new characteristic that we haven't seen so far. Display defines how the block is displayed. This block, the H2 block, is usually displayed as a block. That is, it goes from left to right. That is why things like these don't show next to it. And in this case, I wanted to be inline. That is, to not go all the way to the other side of the page. So if you want to have a look at a better explanation of what display does and the different options, we've seen inline and inline block so far in this class. You can go to W3 Schools and you'll see a very good idea there of how it works. And this is a new property. I'm gonna make it float on the right. Float means that it's floating there, it's not occupying any actual space in the flow of the page, and other things wrap around it. So once I click here on reload, it's gonna move up and to the right. There we are. Not so far up. So I'm gonna give it a negative margin to move it up. So check this out. 50 pixels negative margin moves it 50 pixels up. That's perfect. And I've got the 100% here. That's why I'm making it go outside, because I didn't give it only the top margin. So if I only give it a top margin, it's gonna go into the page again. Yeah, there we are, and have a top margin that is, but That's too big. What if I go 35 instead of 50? Yeah, that looks better. It's better aligned there with my logo. So now I'm going to start creating. I've got the top part of the header. I'm going to start working on my navigation menu. So the navigation menu here in the HTML is represented by this UL, by this unordered list. So I will first give this a background because I want it to be dark. I want it to be black. So I'll just, maybe not black. I'll use a lighter color. I have a color here written down that I've selected prior to preparing this video. So I'll use header because it's inside header. I don't want to change every UL in the page, only the ULs inside my header div. That is only this UL. If I have a different UL here in the rest of the page, it won't be affected by this style I am creating. And I'm going to give it a background color. And this color is going to be color FF8700. And there we are. That's an orange. I love orange, so it looks perfect for what I want. And I'm not going to do anything else with my UL. I think it looks perfect the way it is there. I'm going to change the list items. So I select header, and inside header I select LI, list item. And there I am modifying the style for these elements here. Everything between this list and this list item and this list item will be affected by the style I'm creating. That is the header div, and inside the header div, the LI tag. So the header div and the LI tag. That's how I select specifically that. So I start by making this list is showing things one after the other from top to bottom. I wanted them to be horizontal, one next to the other. This is actually what I was talking about. Block that is displayed as a block. So the display property right now is block. I want to change it to inline. So the block doesn't go all the way to the end of the page, but just to where the word ends, to where the list ends. So each LI will be displayed as an inline block. It will still be a block, but it will be one next to the other. There we go. It worked perfectly. So after changing the display, I can change the list style to eliminate those dots that were appearing right there. They're hidden, but they're still there. So I just say list style none, and I'm gonna give it a margin to make it go a little bit nicer in the page. So I'm gonna give it a left margin, and I'm gonna give it a right margin. The left margin is gonna be 20, and the right margin is gonna be 20. I know that these values work because I've tested them before. As you can see here, I already have a completed version that I worked on before preparing this video for you, that actually making sure I had everything right for the video. It looks like this, and I know 20 looks good. So I'm close to this. I don't have the background, and I don't have these changing colors. So let's go back and keep working. So right here in my CSS, I've created the right margin, and now I am going to create the left margin, and it's going to be also 20 pixels. So they're actually 40 pixels separated except for the first one. And I made a mistake somewhere. It's not right margin, it's margin right. I'm sorry, it's my dyslexic mistake. I sometimes confuse words and the order of words. I'm not actually dyslexic, it's a way of saying that I make that mistake often. And there we are. Often is the British, my wife's accent. And there we are, header. So now I need to change these links into the white color that I want and the white background. So, and for that I need to change the headers, and sorry, the A, that's the link in the header. So I select header, and every link, every A tag is gonna have this style that I'll create here. And not just A, because there is a special property we haven't seen. We can create CSS styles for more than one item. So I'm going to create it for A, for header A, and for header A visited. And that is because visited links usually have a special style and a special color in the browser. So I'm going to make them all, both, whether they're visited or not, look the same. So first I'm going to make sure that the text decoration is not there. So the text decoration is the underline, so I'm going to remove it. I don't like underlining links. It looks very 90s in my opinion, and I think some others. I think I read that somewhere, so it looks very 90s. I'm going to give it a small padding in this. I'm going to change the color first so you see what happens. The color, I'm going to make them white because I think white looks good on an orange background. There we are, so they should look white now. There, perfect. And now that I have the color correctly, I'm going to give it a padding. So the link actually has a distance between the end and this. I'll do that later so you can see the reason. The reason is that I want this to change when I put my mouse on it. To do that, I need to create a new style for the A tag for links when they are in the hover state. So I use this. I select header because again I am inside the div header and I only want to change things within this div, within this space here. So let me make it bigger so you can see it better. There we are, between this div and this closing div tag, and I want to change all the A's in the hover state. So the hover state is when you put your mouse on them. So I want them to change a little bit when there is a mouse on them. How does this change? So see, the text becomes black and the background becomes white. So I'll do that. Background color is white, FF, and color is black, that is 000000. I'm done. Reload here. Perfect. So I've got a navigation menu that works and that has the styles that I had planned it to have in my mockups. I'm just missing the background image here. So I'm going to show you how to put it for the whole header. I have an image here in my computer. Let me find the folder where I'm keeping this work. It's called site, and in the images folder in my site I have this image called gradient.png. It's a very simple image. It's just a gradient. It's 1 kilobyte and it's very small. So to add it as a background, I'm going to use the background tag and pick the image using the URL property. So I'm calling it from the styles folder. So I'm calling it from here, from this file called index.may. So I need to go out into the main folder. To do that, I do // in computer jargon. That means go out into the containing folder, that is here. So now I'm standing on this folder, on the site folder, and I need to tell it to go inside the images folder. So images, and in images I needed to look for this image, gradient.png, gradient.png, and I wanted to repeat itself in the x-axis, that is to the right, only to the right. I'll reload here, and there you are. My background is right there, and we've seen a few new things in this video. So if you need to watch it again, do so, and ask me any questions you need in class, or ask me for a reinforcement session in which I can help you personally one-on-one.